and the barrels are charred on the inside, and then the flavor cannot be adulterated in any way.
Four Roses uses 5 different yeast cultures combined with 2 grain recipes to get 10 unique bourbon flavors.
All bourbons will use a small flavoring grain. It's usually rye grain or wheat, and we use more than anyone else, less corn, and we use a lot of rye to give a rich, full-bodied flavor and a bit of spicy character.
Bourbon is the alcohol found in the mint julep. To see how this cocktail is made, I met with an expert on the drink for a demonstration.
I'm here with bartender Larry Rice, and today he's going to show us how to make the drink of the Kentucky Derby, a mint julep. But before we get started, tell me, how did you become a bartender?
I started bartending when I was in college. Really kind of gravitated towards it. I love spirits, love people. It's a very hospitable business, and I really enjoyed the fact that you interact with people on a daily basis.
Well, tell us a little bit about the mint julep. How did it become known associated with Kentucky and the Kentucky Derby?
We kind of just took it as our own a while back. Originally, the mint julep was the julep itself, I should say, is very old. Mint didn't come into play until the 1800s. Originally, it was a medicinal drink. It had lavender, water, sugar in it. No alcohol at all. It wasn't until the early 19th century that you even saw alcohol, and it was rum at the time. Around the Civil War era, or just previous to the Civil War, you started hearing about the Georgia julep, which had brandy in it, sometimes substituted with whiskey. Whenever Kentucky took it on its own, they obviously were going to use whiskey because of our heritage with whiskey here in the state. And we've kind of been doing the same build ever since. Which we got rid of the lavender, we got rid of the water, and we got and whatnot, and we added in whiskey, mint, and sugar. So
great. Well, tell us, what's the first step in making a mint julep?
First step is the mint, which kind of makes sense. I like to take the leaves off. A lot of people will add in the stems. You can get a little bit of bitterness from it if you're gentle with it. Either way is fine, because you're just wanting to bruise it to get the oils. The oil is where all the smell and flavor comes from.
Does it matter what type of mint you use?
It doesn't, and it does. For traditional mint julep, I like to use spearmint. Like I said before, there's been several other things added in and out of juleps in general, as pineapple, whatnot. You can play around with it a little bit. I've even seen pineapple in them before. Peaches are in the Georgia julep. Traditional Kentucky julep is going to be spearmint, however.
Okay.
So.
Now,
through over 7,000 roses, and they look for very specific characteristics when picking the perfect roses.
This is what we want the rose to look like for us, the center and the shape of the rose, as opposed to the rose on the left. It's a beautiful rose, wonderful size, but it's overdeveloped for what we're looking for the rose garland itself.
Well, you look for shape, and it can have any indentions in it. Some of them are a little bit flat and have a hollow spot. Well, that shows up in the garland. You look for disease, size, color. Sometimes they come in and some are more of an orange color than the really pretty, I would say, American Beauty red, but I'm not sure that's what it's called.
Just days before Derby weekend, these flowers are sorted through at the Kroger Rose Garland production site in Louisville. This year, the fresh roses were shipped in from Ecuador. And even though they all look beautiful at first glance, Belser says finding the perfect flower isn't easy. The team goes through different stages of judging them.
A rose changes its characteristics overnight. So it might look one way today, but it's going to look something else tomorrow. So we're looking for the perfect rose at each stage.
The volunteers work hard selecting, cutting, and primping the roses. But they aren't concerned only with Derby Day. The winner of the previous day's Kentucky Oaks race gets a garland of lilies. And it might be hard to believe, but volunteer Joyce Blair says these garlands are heavy.
And it's just right around 40 pounds, maybe just a little. And we were really worried about that the first year around because we thought, we do not want to be responsible for this heavy thing going over this thoroughbred who has just run this marathon and like collapsing on the spot. So we called out to Churchill Downs. We calculated the weight and asked them if this might be a problem. And they got with the people that would really be knowledgeable and finally said,
I didn't know they actually used individual vials for each rose.
I know, and the garland ends up weighing about 40 pounds. That's about the same weight as a kindergartner.
Well, it's a good thing they used miniature faux rose garlands at the Kindergarten Derby. Sania Ganawi visited the Louisville Collegiate School to watch the 50th annual Kindergarten Derby. Sania?
This race might not be the fastest 2 minutes in sports, but it could be the cutest. I followed the 5- and 6-year-olds around the track as they competed on their decorated hobby horses.
And they're off. That whistle marks the start of the Kindergarten Derby at the Louisville Collegiate School. These young jockeys know there's only one way to win this race. In the weeks leading up to the race, the children decorate their hobby horses that are usually made out of foam. Like Jack, participants from last year are able to pull their weight in the race by escorting the Kentucky Princesses.
I was part of the Princesses.
The event always takes place on the Thursday before Derby Day and is a fun way for everyone to cap off the students' first year of school. Elizabeth Post is the school's communications and marketing coordinator. She says it is the young jockeys who make this event so special.
It's just something that people retain with them, even though you're 5 and 6 years old. You still remember, who was it that kind of got ahead of you in the race and who the winner was that year.
This is the 50th anniversary of the Kindergarten Derby. To commemorate this Golden Jubilee, a special retrospective parade was added to the event's lineup.
Please welcome Collegiate's 4th grade honoring the heroes of the 1970s.
Each year has a new theme, such as continents of the world. This year, the children recognized the different decades. The students dressed in costumes and marched in a parade. First, they had long hair and bell-bottoms of the 1960s, and then went all the way through to the characters of today. When she was 5 years old, Megan Hoskins participated in the Kindergarten Derby. Now son Jack attends Louisville Collegiate.
I love the idea of the tradition, the fact that it's been going on for 50 years, and just having a good time, enjoying the whole school being involved, and carrying on the tradition of the Derby and also the event being a part of our city, obviously, and a part of the tradition of our city.
The winner of the Kindergarten Derby gets his or her own garland of roses, but this one's made out of paper. And just like the real horses, the students train for months for the race.
The children themselves actually have a few test runs in their physical education classes. They'll take laps around the field and kind of practice what it's like to run with a hobby horse. It can be difficult, but they do design their own, jockey silks, if you will, and learn more about the Derby race.
And this year's winner might be a jockey in waiting.
The hobby horses are named after actual horses in the real race, and winners of the Kindergarten Derby have been known to finish in the top 3 in the big race just days later. This year's winner was Stay Thirsty. Back to you, Anna Rittis and Justine.
Thanks, Sania. She was right when she said those are the cutest 2 minutes in sports. They were so cute, and who knows, maybe those cuties will grow up to be professional jockeys and upgrade from hobby horses to real horses in no time. After the break, we take you inside the jockeys room and introduce you to some of the best jockeys in the sport. There's more to come on WEBN's The Derby Experience. Welcome back to WEBN's The Derby Experience. This year's lineup of jockeys is special.
That's because one of the 19 spots is filled by a woman who could make history. Rosie Napravnik could become the first female jockey in history to win the Kentucky Derby. I got a chance to speak with Napravnik in the jockeys room before the race. 19 horses, 2 minutes, and $2 million. That's what's at stake for these jockeys. They have the chance to win a race that most only dream about being a part of. Jockey Rosie Napravnik is about to realize her dream of riding in the Derby. She recently became the first woman to win a riding title at Fairgrounds Racetrack in New Orleans.
I'll tell you what, that was very unexpected. The whole meet was just a complete wave that I'm still kind of riding on. So, there's a lot of history at Fairgrounds. There's a lot of really great trainers, riders, horses that have gone through there. So it was really an honor to have won the title there.
Napravnik is the 6th female jockey to ride in the Derby. She's riding Pants on Fire, but she says competing in the Run for the Roses means the same to her as her male colleagues.
I think riding in the Derby means the same thing to me as it is to any other rider in the Derby. It's we're all jockeys and we all do the same thing, so I compete against the guys every day. And of course, if I was to win it, I would be very proud for the female aspect of it, but it doesn't make it any different for me than it would for any other jockey.
Napravnik will leave the starting gate with Pants on Fire from post position 7. Nearby in post position 9, Javier Castellano is hoping to win the race with his horse, Derby Kitten.
We got to tell him lies.
Everything has to do with luck, and it also comes down to the horse. It would be magnificent if I had the option of winning, but they're the best 20 horses in the country, so anything can happen.
This is Castellano's 5th time competing in the Derby. He says when he's still loaded in the gate, his mind is already racing.
It's a feeling you can't explain. The feeling you get inside is the combination of 100,000 people singing the same song of the Kentucky Derby, and you get goosebumps. Your memory starts to race like a computer, and you start thinking about where you started and the people that have helped you. All of that comes to mind at that moment.
Napravnik's mind will also be racing, and she appreciates female jockeys before her who have helped pave the way for women in racing. One of those women is P.J. Cooksey. She was the 2nd woman to ride in the Derby. Cooksey says women need to work harder than men to prove themselves in this male-dominated sport.
I had to earn their respect, first of all, and let them know that I knew what I was doing out there and I wasn't a danger to them. A lot of them really had a hard time because a lot of them that have been around for years never had to ride with a girl jockey. And you know how guys are. First you got the male ego, and then you got the little man ego. So that was a little tough sometimes, riding with.
Cooksey says sometimes women need to answer when opportunity knocks.
One particular rider he'd been riding for years and women weren't in racing at the time, and I came in and I started riding.